Hello, fellow female activists and the 90 million who did not vote. Cathy here, your wellness coach, and we are in our wellness playlist today. And today we are in mental fitness mode subcategory, and we're going to talk about uh, wasting less time and negative energy. Okay, negative emotions, negative energy, however you want to put it. So we always start off with our positive quotient repetitions. Okay, positive quotient repetitions or PQ reps. And here we go. If you feel safe, and only if you can, go ahead and please, I invite you to close your eyes. And what we're going to do is I want you to, whether you're laying down, sitting, or standing, go ahead and think about a tall spine. Always want you to really think about your spine being nice and tall and elongated so that you have a really good posture. Go ahead and take one of your fingers. Hopefully you have use of them, but if you can, take one hand, fingertips, and go ahead and touch something with those fingertips with such intention that you can feel all new sensations. So, are you feeling something scratchy? Are you feeling something warm or cold? Is there friction that you're creating? And it's just your fingertips. There's so many nerve endings. Just go ahead and explore what you can. What's the texture like? Now let's bring our hands together in prayer. And with that same intention, go ahead and rub all the fingertips of one hand with the other, and do so with much intention, so much intention that you can now again feel your fingertip ridges on either side. Let your mind wander on all those sensations. Feel free to take one fingertip down the hand of the other or the opposite hand. You may be able to feel your fingerprints, possibly even those distinct increases, right, in your hand, the lines. What sensations, what warmth or friction are you creating? Now go ahead and just take two fingers and let's go ahead and rub those two fingertips intently together. What simple sensations are you feeling? And with that, go ahead and open your eyes if they were closed, blink them open, and welcome back. I know I required that little reprieve. Positive quotient repetitions or PQ reps. They're very, very cool, and you can always ask me more about them. So today we're in our mental fitness subcategory, and we're talking about, in particular, what we just did is a way to take yourself out of negative energy faster. Why is that important? So when you spend less time in negative energy or negative emotions, your brain works better. So let's take it all the way back. Neuroscience 101, okay? Our brains know two main forms of emotion. It's either going to be coming from love, sage energy, or from fear, which is saboteur energy. Both are necessary for us as humans to stay alive. All right. So not one is not better than the other, nor is, when I say negative, that's just our brain, our way of simplifying, right? Emotions, right, come in various forms, okay, and they feel different. When we are in more sage type mode, okay, we are activating more of our love type of emotions, right? All of our emotions are necessary. Again, fear is how our sympathetic nervous system works, okay? So our autonomic nervous system, ANS, autonomic nervous system, holds both love and fear quite literally in the uh, sometimes I can say it clearly and sometimes I can't. Sympathetic nervous system is where the fear part lives, okay, of our nervous system. And it's our alert system. The sympathetic nervous system literally is on alert, right? It kept us alive when we lived in caves. It kept us alive when we were running, from danger. Parasympathetic is our rest and digest part of our brain, right? So our nervous system, right, carries both. And for good reason, it keeps us alive. Our sage emotions, okay, which there were five big ones, all right, or say at least five sage powers, I'll put it that way. They help us stay more even keel. And that does not mean at any way, shape, or form, in any way, shape, or form, that we are devoid of emotion or that we cannot give forth, right, some type of emotion. What that means is that our brain can literally work faster. Our So yes, your frontal cortex there, right? It's the um, younger part of our brain. The subconscious is what created fight or flight, i.e., it is the oldest part of our brain, right, through evolution. So consequently, 90% of what we do, every action that we partake in on a daily basis, 90% of that is just automatic. Why? Because our brains are trying to conserve energy, right? Well, sage energy is about ease and flow. When you are engaged in something that gives you happiness, right? When you're joyful about whatever your hobby is, maybe you're a gardener, right? And you love getting dirt in your hands and you love just being on your knees and getting dirty. Guess what? You're in sage. Your prefrontal cortex is working quite well. It is talking to the other side, which is so the prefrontal cortex, right, is like our logic, right? It's our executive functions type stuff. Yes, that is about the left side brain, which is more logical. And it takes us being even keel to use it, right? So the more we can be in sage mode, we are saving not only energy, but we're saving time because we're not switching from fear into like, oh my gosh, I need to stop and think about how to get myself out of this um, life or death situation. No, we are in a ease and flow mode. Ooh, I have this new seed that I want to plant, and I want to make sure that I'm, properly caring for it. So I'm going to, you know, get some research done while I'm here in the dirt, but I'm gonna keep it short and then I'm go back to the gardening. That is sage because you're using your executive function to make a decision, but you're doing so in a very joyful, in a very calm state of mind, ease and flow. When you hear athletes, right, elite athletes talk about being in the zone, that's sage. They are at their best and they are working really freaking hard and they are having so much fun. They are, you know, exhilarated. They are using their sage powers to elevate their experience, right? To elevate how well they perform. If they were in fear mode, you end up unfortunately like what, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying there's any shame on the wonderful goat who is Simone Biles. When she took herself out of the Olympics, what was it, like 2 years ago or something like that? She did so very, very correctly. Here was a perfect example of when your sage energy is outnumbered, unfortunately. Now there's 10 saboteurs, and that saboteur energy is powerful and it can take you out. She understood that there was something not going well. Okay. And so she said, in sage, quite literally, I'm going to step back and I'm going to reevaluate how I perform because she could have literally died in that one particular vault where she lost her orientation to space, her space orientation. So kudos to Miss Biles, who is now married. I don't know if she changed her name, but anyway, long story short, she experienced what saboteurs can do, and then she went into Sage and said, guess what? I don't care what else has to happen. I get to put myself in a safe place. That took Sage. That took not only humbleness, but it took a huge amount of literally loving yourself enough to say, I am not safe. I get to put myself in a better position. Sage energy saves time. It creates a lot of new ideas, and it puts you in a place of not just positivity, but it puts you in a place of power. Why? Because you can send out either of those energies. You can put out saboteur energy that will then trigger someone else, and then you two are not going to get anywhere. On the other end, you can send out sage energy, and that's going to then trigger someone else's sage energy. And guess what happens? Instead of butting heads, you come up with phenomenal ideas. You come up maybe with wonderful partnerships. Who knows? But you save time and resources. Okay, so me, time is the most important resource. It is the most important. But what I'm getting at is you save time and energy, right? So all the resources that are so important to us, you end up accumulating more of those resources because you're in Sage. So again, let's learn how to get out of the saboteurs, and there's 10 total, but it only takes 5. Okay, there's 10 saboteurs, but there is 5 sage powers that can take out or calm those 10 saboteurs. That's how powerful sage energy is. And I want you to live more in sage so that not only can you get through what's happening right now, but we can then excel at the most critical times. All right. So with that, I can share more with you how I can share and teach you that. But needless to say, again, we want to stay in sage power more than we want to be driven by our fears, which are the 10 saboteurs. Okay. So I can assure you that when you're in sage mode, you're going to know it. And I can help you get there more often and stay there or recover from the saboteurs faster, so that you can live in sage more often. Alrighty, with that, we will see you soon. Until next time, take care, take charge, God bless.